week 10. Gonna start a little early. It's I don't know, about 8:30 in the morning. Carrots are growing like crazy. Tried to thin them out, but they're all intertwined. Waiting for these radishes to finish going to seed. I planted some bok choy in this one bucket. Everything else is doing what it's doing. The radishes are growing, but there's not much big root underneath. They're just little tiny things. The cucumber in the barrel is pretty dry. I don't know whether it broke or it's just not doing well because I crammed it in there, but we'll see what happens. It's been pretty hot this last week, so not the best way to start a new plant out when it's almost 100 degrees. Had flooding issues again. The cucumber, you can see the perlite's kind of all over. I just pulled the water plug on it, stuck it in the other thing. So I don't know, it just does it randomly. Where this one's been fine, but this one's plugged before. You can see the other second line in there. I think there's just too many roots getting in there. I need to get in and clear it out. It seems like after you cut the cucumbers, it seems like a lot of the leaves die off. It's not for lack of water, that's for darn sure. Here's some ladybugs. There's a gaggle of them up there hanging out. I don't know. So I think next year definitely not doing cucumbers and melons in the buckets. So I'll try to find some other mechanism to do that. But the regular cucumber has got some full-size ones ready to go. They just kind of creep up on you. And then this is the pickling one still. It's still producing. I've got a couple I'm trying to let go to seed. Like that monster one back there. And I think there's a monster one hanging here. Trying to let it go to seed, see if I can harvest some seeds up. Looks like there's a third one. But these cucumbers grew fast. I mean, that's supposed to be a pickling one, and that's like full size. So anyways, peppers are doing really well. See, I topped them last week. Oh, there's a ladybug hanging out. So some of them are still hanging out in here, so that's good. So far so good on the bugs, or the other kind of bugs. The beefsteak is doing really well. So there's two big ones hanging out down there. There's some other ones starting to pop up in there. So this plant's doing really good. I clipped a couple of large suckers last night, trying to root them in some water, and because I'm going to cut a couple blue barrels this weekend and try to get a couple things in dirt going. Again, peppers are doing real well considering. So like I said, I topped them last week and we've got all kinds of buds growing on. This one was starving for water a little bit. Looks like one of the lines was half plugged, but rectified that. Even though there's two lines, it's not getting two lines full. I mean, it only holds however much water goes to the bottom of the bucket anyways, right? So it's still fruiting, but it's been a little dry. Didn't know it, so I have to go and actually shake the buckets and make sure they're actually getting water, because you can't see them without. The red pear, there's, well, we'll say 1.5, so this is a pretty good size. And then there's this decrepit looking one back there. I'm still waiting for this one to pop out any more fruit. Lots of buds. It's getting water. I don't know whether it's just the heat, which some people say the heat really affects the tomatoes. But the rest of the tomatoes in here are doing fine, so maybe it's just this particular plant. Bitter melon, this one was also flooding this morning. It's also turning colors. You can kind of see them. They actually went pretty good size in there. So but they're tiny. I mean, they're about as big around as a little, like a sausage. They're usually like this big around like a cucumber and then still green for a very long time. But anyways, there's a whole fat node going on back there, and you can actually see them getting their little heirloom stripes going on. There's a second node and third node starting. There's one hanging out back there, another one coming out here, and a whole bunch going out there. So this one's starting to do really well, and one hopping out there. Actually, that's technically a sucker. That one should have come off. So I'll probably clip it just to get the rest of, this is what happens when these grow too big, right? So that's at the armpit or the junction, just like that was. So that needed to come out. And I've got two up here. I haven't picked this week, so I'm trying to limit it instead of trying to do it a couple of days, do it once or twice a week. The Juliet grape tomato, it started to sprout downwards off of the other nodes, as we'll call them. So I ate and picked a couple the other day. Got some turning ripe. There's probably like, I'm gonna guess 50 or 60 tomatoes on here. I mean, that plant goes all the way back there. And there's some starting at the very top. I'm hoping that it'll start weighting it down so it's not touching the complete top. But everywhere you look, there is tomatoes. And these Juliet hybrids, that's a big grape tomato. I mean, it's the size of a small Roma. Not all of them are that big, but they're pretty good size. And they're all doing well. There's no end rot. I let them go really, really ripe, and they were still firm, pretty meaty. I need to trim this a little bit because it's going to start dwarfing this pepper plant as this pepper plant takes off. Like I said, all the pepper plants are only 2 weeks old tomorrow. So this indigo in the back is doing really well. So you can see a pretty good size one with its heirloom stripe going on, and then there's this little node that's pretty full. This other node is coming in. There's one starting here. And this plant's still growing, because I think it's only, what, 4 or 5 weeks? I'd have to go back and look. So this one is a fairly new plant. It's a little runtier than this one, but it just kind of comes and goes, right? So early girl's doing well. There's a big node down here. This one's kind of weird. I'm debating whether I should clip this other part of it or not. Don't want to get too wild. Another node starting here. And some more going on up here. And there's a sucker up there. I've been kind of letting, like I said, letting some of the suckers go so I can clip them and try to root them. So this is the black creme. Looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 there. One didn't pollinate and that fell off. Oh no, it didn't fall off, but I don't think it's gonna grow. We'll see. Oh, there's one hiding in the corner. There's a sucker. Because this one, it split like we talked. It should have just been one trunk and then things coming off, but it's not horrible. It's not the end of the world. It's just how much nutrients you want to shoot down, 2 branches or 2 trunks versus the other. But I mean, this is the other reason why is because this other side, which would have got clipped, is actually doing really well, right? So there's like 4 nodes coming off of this one, and there's a bunch of tomatoes, so doing really well. And then there's a bunch that are pollinated, and they're just waiting to kick out the tomatoes. The Abe Lincolns. So this one actually has, this one's been behind, is actually starting to throw some fruit. This one's got a bunch. This one was the runt as we talked about, but it's gone the other way. You can see tons of blossoms, and little tomatoes are just starting to form if you come out back here. And then there's a ton hanging out here and a ton out here. That's a little funky. That's not end rot, that's just growing weird. And then, you know, like I said, I've been letting some of the suckers go so I can clip them, but I clipped a bunch last night off the other plants. These two pepper plants are doing well, except for something's eaten at least a couple of the leaves. I'm not sure what's doing that. I need to find out. Like I said, since they've been topped, they're all doing real well. No sign of aphids. So, and then we already covered the cucumbers. So that's a long video. That's 11 minutes, but that's inside and outside. So until next week.